Hey all, and welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here today, and a big happy new year to you. First episode launched for the year, and very excited to be bringing you this interview with Erin Kerry. What a fantastic interview. Erin is the host of Sparking Wholeness. It's a podcast out there. She also has a book out called Live Beyond Your Label. She's got another one coming out soon too. Sneak peek in advance for that one towards the end of this episode. And in this episode, we talk about health, really, and wellness. So it's living beyond your label. Often we get labels and we have identities that we attach to, and that affects how fully we live our lives. And that's exactly what Erin experienced in her own personal life, being diagnosed at a very early age with PTSD, depression, bipolar disorder, and she's been in remission for a couple of decades now. So she has self-learnt really, tools and methods on dealing with her lifestyle so that she can live more fully, have more meaning, and find more joy. And that's what it's all about here at the Hidden Why podcast. So I really hope you get something out of this. I certainly did. And all the links to the show notes will be there at thehiddenwhy.com, episode 1145. So you can check them out, use the links to connect with Erin. And I hope you guys enjoy this one. Thank you. Hey, Erin, welcome to the Hidden Why podcast. Great to have you here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Good to be here.
It's awesome. Whereabouts are you?
I am in Texas. I'm in East Texas. So it's the pretty
East.
tree-filled part of Texas, not like, desert and tumbleweeds. That what normally people think of as Texas. It's lots of big green trees, lots of humidity. It's very humid and hot today in January, which is not unusual for us.
Still with the famous Texan barbecue?
We do have good barbecue. Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
I haven't been yet, but it's on my bucket list, so I'll
Yeah,
get
it's
there
sweet. The
eventually.
sauce is sweet. So if you like a vinegar sauce, it's not might not be your thing, but it's still pretty
I'll give anything a go. That's
good.
awesome. And look, congratulations on the launch of your book. You've got a copy there. I can see it in the background for those watching this
Yeah.
online on YouTube. But the book title is Live Beyond Your Label. So it's a holistic approach to breaking old patterns and rediscovering a healthier you in mind, body, and spirit. And I know there's a bit of a story behind this and what's brought you to your work. You work now as I guess, a mental health coach, would you say? Or
Yeah,
just
yeah. I
health
work as a
coach?
functional nutritionist, integrative health coach. Yes. My
Yeah,
training's in functional medicine.
functional
So
medicine. Okay, I'm curious to learn more about that too and what that means. But yeah, you've got a story behind why you wrote this book and what's led you into this field of work. Can you share that with us a little bit?
I'd love to. Yeah, I often share with people that my passion comes from my pain. So my passion from mental illness stems from the fact that I was diagnosed with three different mental illness labels by the time I was 18. So first I was diagnosed with PTSD. I was diagnosed with depression following that, and then finally bipolar disorder, which is a really big, scary stigma carrying diagnosis for a lot
All
of
right.
people. But
At
what
the
had
age of
happened
18.
at 18, and what had happened is that my
Crazy.
depressive symptoms had turned into, and there's a lot of reasons for this. I don't know, looking back, what was the cause. Some people believe it was caused by antidepressants themselves. They spun me up too high, creating some hypomania symptoms, which just means, as you can hear, I talk fast anyway, but very much increased lots of speech, lots of fast talking, increased goal directed activity, and staying up really late, going, not shutting down, and then crashing into a depression. So instead of a depressive state that was consistently depression, I would swing into some highs. And those highs eventually turned very self destructive. And so that's what led me to the bipolar diagnosis. A lot of people consider bipolar to be a personality trait. It is not. It is truly a mood disorder, and it can last weeks. For some people, these mood shifts can last months. For me, it was very seasonal at the time. But I tried all the things they told me to do. I tried to sleep more. I tried to take the medications. I tried all of the conventional treatments. And what ended up happening for me is eventually, this goes far down the line,
Hmm.
I discovered more of a functional medicine root cause approach to healing and some lifestyle shifts and changes, gut health, the gut brain connection, nervous system regulation, trauma healing. And that really was the key to unlock a lot of healing for me. I have been symptom free now for almost 2 decades. I often joke that my husband's a trauma therapist, he's a licensed therapist. And I joke that if anybody would know if I had symptoms of my mental illnesses, he would know, right? But he says he's never seen me in a truly depressed state. He's never seen me in a manic or hypomanic state. Now I'm a high energy person. And then sometimes this time of year where I am, I can have some seasonal lows, but it's just like your typical human stuff, you know? And I think
Mm,
for so long we over pathologize my symptoms. And when I say we, me and my parents and my medical practitioners that were working for me, it was really hard for me to live beyond those labels that I was given because I felt that while the labels were maybe helpful to help me make sense of my symptoms, they didn't really give me support to know what to do with my symptoms and know how to heal. And so it took a
right.
lot of other tools, and that's what my book is it includes. It includes more of a whole body approach to whether you're struggling with a mental illness label, whether you're struggling with an autoimmune diagnosis or type 2 diabetes or any kind of a chronic illness. We're given these labels to help us, but sometimes it can make us feel like, oh no, this is all there is for me. And so my
Yeah.
book is really called to reconnect with your mind and body and help to live beyond that in ways that will be healthy for you.
Yeah. So you can remove those labels potentially.
I mean, I would love that to be the case. I mean, and it's so hard, right? Like in for me with my mental illness, labels that we're given in the mental health world are based on a set of symptoms that we have for a period of time. I no longer meet the criteria for a diagnosis. Does that mean that I don't have the label? I don't know. I don't know if anybody really knows how, if you're diagnosed at one time, are you forever diagnosed, even if you don't meet the symptoms? That's
What would you
I
say?
have
What would you say? Would you say you'd remove those labels? I mean, it sounds
I,
like
I
you
don't I
have.
don't feel that's a great question. I don't feel like I identify as somebody who has bipolar disorder or depression. I feel like yes, I have I would say my PTSD is the biggest hindrance for me. I would say that that's always something for those who suffer from PTSD and trauma symptoms that creates a nervous system disruption on that can impact a cellular level of function. And so that's
Right.
something I'll probably I could easily say that that's an active work in my life trying to move past that. But yeah, I don't know if I would identify myself as somebody who has an active um, manifestation of bipolar disorder or depression. That's not accurate
Okay.
for me today.
You said
Yeah.
you went through like spikes, highs and lows, and the spikes, led to levels of self-destruction. Can you
Mm.
describe
Yeah.
what that sort of means? Like, is that just
For sure. Yeah. So for me, and this all started, of course, during the teen years when for a lot of people there's self-destruction anyway, right? This is
oh,
when kids are experimenting with substances and things like that. For me, I'll say I was a rule follower. I was an overachieving firstborn. My dad was a pastor at a church for many, many years. And so I did all the things that a good preacher's daughters are supposed to do. And
yeah,
so the way that my self-destructive behavior showed up was in binge drinking to the point where I was on some heavy, really heavy psychiatric meds where if you drink on those medications, it causes lapses in time, memory gaps, it causes blackouts. I have a lot of periods in my life that I don't remember anything, which of course led to more trauma because there are a lot of people that will take advantage of women in that situation, which I
hmm
learned the hard way. And so that
yeah,
created a whole other level of trauma
yeah,
that I had to end up recovering from. But for me, my self-destruction really showed up in alcohol abuse would be the number one way,
yeah.
and just like trying to drink to take myself away from the pain that I was experiencing because I was pretty mad about my diagnosis. I was frustrated. I felt like I was doing the things they told me to do and I wasn't seeing relief from
Was
my
it wasn't
symptoms.
working?
And so I stopped caring. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people go down that route, drugs, alcohol, whatever it might be,
Oh
doing
yeah.
destructive behaviors, even without the labels. Is
Mhm.
for you, was it enhanced by having those diagnoses and the labels attached, do you feel, or
Yeah. It's a great question. I mean, I guess the question would be, had I gone down that path if I had not been given the labels? I don't know. Did the labels drive the behavior? That's a great question too. I think in some ways, some of the medication that I was given really made me very numb. And so alcohol made me feel things again. It made
yeah,
me feel more like I could, feel something, anything, because a lot of the mood stabilizing medications they give for hypomania, mania just make you feel very flat. And I don't
Yeah.
like feeling that way. I'm a
No.
person with a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings, and I love living my life.
Yeah.
And so that alcohol kind of gave me a zap back into something until it became blackout nothing, which is not helpful for anybody. So it's a
Yeah.
great question.
So one helped the other and then didn't help in the longer term.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess there's a lot of people living without, the diagnoses and maybe in those states of
Mhm.
living, and maybe they're not aware of it because they don't have any attachment to a label. So maybe the labels helped you become more aware of, actually, this is probably causing me more pain than it's actually benefiting me.
Possible.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then the other question would be, I mean, I think a lot of people, while they don't have diagnoses, I would maybe argue that we all do carry labels in some way, right?
Yeah,
Whether it's
true.
core beliefs that we have, experiences as children, things that we were told when we were younger, things our parents told us, create kind of an identity within us. Like I already gave, I'm an overachieving firstborn, right? Like that's a pretty neutral label. That's not
Right.
anything that's going to cause me to go get drunk tonight. But it is something that it kind of creates an identity statement for me. And I think all people have experienced adversity. And a lot of times we make meaning from that adversity to determine our place in the world. And then that can create the path that we follow from there and inform the decisions that we make. Like, oh, I'm unworthy, like my parents preferred my brother or sister to me, and they always gave them a lot of attention. I felt overlooked, and so therefore I'm going to go seek out attention from a source that I know is going to give me, immediate gratification in that way, or
Yeah.
whatever it is, right? Like I
Yeah.
think that we all probably have some sort of label that drives
Well,
us to do
yeah,
what.
that makes sense. So whether it's a diagnosis label or just your self-identity,
Hmm.
certainly those drive, like you said, behaviors, which could be
Yeah.
healthy or unhealthy in many ways.
Hmm.
Interesting stuff. What I feel like in today's age, these labels are given more frequently and carelessly.
Hmm.
I could be wrong, but I've got two children myself, and I know through schooling and all that sort of stuff that there's many kids with ADHD and this and that. And, sometimes I think I have ADHD, but I've never been
Hmm.
diagnosed, and I just accept, I'm like a bit like you, maybe, a bit hyper, and I've got an
Hmm.
active brain and like to do things, So do you feel that that's the case in society today, that labels are given a bit carelessly and too frequently?
Yeah, I mean, I think it kind of depends. Is the label giving you the support that you need? Is the label that you're receiving offering, like for in the case of a child, for example, I was in teaching in public education for a long time, and a lot of kids would get specific diagnoses or labels in order for them to get the support they needed to receive to get them through the school day or to help them take tests, things like that. And so in that case, yes, maybe it can be helpful, but the negative side of that is I know as a teacher, if we saw kids coming in that already, check mark off the box, they've got ADHD and dyslexia and da da da. Like, yeah, you're going to have to spend extra time with these children. And for many, I think people just by nature of who we are, it's not a negative for that person, but it's like, oh no, what does this mean for me? This kid has this label. What is this? What are they bringing to the table? What are they bringing to my classroom? Is this going to cause disruptions? Things like
Right.
that. And
That's
so then the
interesting.
kids internalize that. And so I think that
So you
I could
treat
go
people
both ways
differently
with
when you
that.
know the labels, right?
I think so. I mean, even when I say I have bipolar disorder, I know for sure I was diagnosed with bipolar disorder. I know for sure people are automatically going, crazy, she's crazy, right? Like that's just where we go, or we make jokes about
Right.
bipolar. Like
Mm.
it is a personality switch. And so I held that one inside for a long time. It's really acceptable to say I struggled with depression. Okay, sure, lots of people. I mean, it's probably one of the most common things that people suffer from. No problem. People can handle that. Bipolar scares people, right? And so I think that when we're talking about kids, and I mean, ADHD is a
Interesting.
great
Mm.
example. It's so tricky. I'm still debating over my youngest kid for sure has classic ADHD symptoms, could check every single checkbox. I haven't gotten him officially diagnosed because he hasn't really struggled enough in school yet. He's maybe not there yet to where he will, but I'm still going, okay, do I tell him that, or do I teach him about how his brain works? And that's what I'm going with right now is, hey, your brain thinks outside the box. You've got this really cool way of viewing the world. Let's work with that as opposed
Yeah.
to here's something that's limiting you from your schoolwork. And I
Mm.
think it really has more to do with the dialogue about what we struggle with
Right.
than let's all get a diagnosis and then now we know we're limited from doing what we want to do,
Yeah.
if that makes sense.
Well, it's limiting. I mean, the first piece around that is awareness. The one thing that triggered to me then when you were talking about, telling someone you're bipolar or got depression, we can't relate to that. Like, I don't know what bipolar is
Mhm.
necessarily.
Right.
And yes, I'd probably hear bipolar and go, oh, that's scary. Just from
Yeah.
what I have heard, right, or gathered. And then
Mhm.
depression, like I don't really know, depression's in levels, right? So I don't really know what that means as well.
True.
But
Mhm.
certainly knowing it will make me interact with people differently as well. And that's could be a
Mhm.
hindrance or it could be a benefit if I knew. But because I don't know, I think it'd be a hindrance on how I treat people, knowing
Mhm.
those labels. So I
Yeah.
think there's got to be a lot more awareness around all of this to help people deal with it. And the other thing is too that I think we're going to get into with a holistic approach to these issues is that when we label someone with that, we treat it with medicine or something like that that actually
Mhm.
doesn't do anything to address the symptoms.
Yeah, not always. Some people, they feel a lot of relief with medication. And, so I was told take your medication and sleep more. That was helpful in the short term, but in my experience, especially now as a coach and working in the functional medicine world, what I'm seeing is that a lot of people, well, if one medication doesn't work, they just get put on another medication.
Yeah,
Well, now they're on two medications, and oh, now I'm not really feeling right again. So now what do I do? And so I think that we have these tools, and I'm so grateful that we live in a world where we have so many tools at our disposal. But I think when we focus so much on those immediate, I would say rapid relief type of tools. And I wouldn't even say they're that rapid. I mean, an antidepressant takes a good 2 or 3 weeks to kick in for somebody. There are
hmm.
other things that we can do that instantly can really support our mood. And some of that is nutritional supplementation. I mean, nutrient deficiencies are big drivers of mood symptoms. Gut health is a big driver of a lot of mood issues. And we see that in the research more and more today. But even if we're talking about serotonin, which we consider to be like the happy neurotransmitter, serotonin does so much more than make us feel happy.
Yeah,
But that's normally what it's known as. But if we were talking about serotonin, we need to make sure, are we getting the building blocks to make serotonin in our body? And that involves B vitamins, that involves tryptophan that we get from protein. It involves having an optimal gut microbiome so that our gut bacteria are synthesizing our neurotransmitters so that they can get into circulation. And there's a lot of things that can disrupt that. But I think a lot of people are walking around, especially this day and age, with lots of nutrient deficiencies. And so, yeah, they're going to feel
yeah,
terrible.
yeah. That's right. And I think you're spot on when it comes to, it's a short-term band-aid solution, which may not help you longer term. And life is like that, right? We have to find the tools to help manage our life so we can live a fulfilled, happy, meaningful life. And that's long term. We can't find the band-aid solutions of jumping onto TikTok and scrolling. That's not going to be a
Yeah.
long-term fix, right? And that's
hmm
the way I
hmm
relate to medication anyway, and I could be wrong, but
Oh, it's
um,
totally medication. Yeah.
let's delve into your journey then. So you obviously had the diagnosis, nothing was working for you. Over what period of time was it that you went from, taking medication, diagnosis labels to on the right track personally, do you
Yeah,
reckon?
I will say the big turnaround point for me that I talk about quite a bit in well, that's how I start my book, is I found
Yeah,
out I was pregnant with my daughter when I was
right.
22. So
22.
I
Yeah.
experienced an unexpected surprise pregnancy, and the medication that I was on at the time, you are not supposed to get pregnant while you're on that medication
Right.
because it can cause massive birth defects. So I had to get off of my medication. And what was so interesting for me was my period of pregnancy, and I've heard this can be the case for women with lots of different chronic health issues like autoimmunity, things like that. I really went into remission from my symptoms. And it was an incredible
Wow.
time of peace for me, whether it was from my hormones leveling out through pregnancy. I often joke, whatever those pregnancy hormones are, if I could just take those all the time, I would feel great because I have 3 kids total. And through every pregnancy, I felt really balanced, really well. So I think there's a hormone piece that played into my
Absolutely.
mental health issues. I mean, we've got lots of different things going on at all times. It's very complex. And so that was part of it. But the birth of my daughter and that even just the postpartum period was pretty balanced for me. I moved. I ended up pursuing my teaching certification, and that job was very routine, very stable for me, which is a big deal for people who struggle, especially with something like bipolar disorder. They need a stable routine. They need something where it's like I go to work from this time to this time. Like the work that I do now, if I was actively struggling with my bipolar symptoms, would not work because every day is a little bit different. I'm a little bit more, I mean, I'm writing some days, I'm podcasting some days, I'm working with clients some days. It's not super routine. And I thrive with that now. But back then, I really needed some stability. So that was the first key, I think, that really helped
Hmm.
me.
Interesting.
Then, knowing that I had a daughter who I needed to get her on a sleep schedule, that put me on a sleep schedule. That helped me in a huge way because before that, I was, adolescent in college, staying up late, sleeping in late, depending on when my class was, that kind of thing. And that did not do any favors for my circadian rhythm. It really disrupted things. And there's a lot of research in circadian rhythm disruptions and mood disorders. Lots of research there.
Makes
So I think
sense.
there's a connection for me there. The other piece that gradually, and these were all things like baby steps that gradually happened for me, was exercise, movement. I was an athlete in high school, loved moving my body, and then, of course, got to college, just stopped, didn't have a reason to. And because I had a young daughter, I decided I'm just going to start running. I'm going to see, I've never been a runner, never liked running. I'm just going to start there. And that bilateral movement was so soothing for me. Now, I am a terrible runner. I'm super slow, but it really did regulate my breathing, regulated my, like I said, that right left movement is really
Yeah.
soothing for your brain. So I got into that. And with that came weight training and eventually turned into yoga and all forms of movement. But just movement alone, I think what we so underemphasize the importance of it, but now we have the research that shows that exercise can be way more effective than medication or talk therapy for
Hmm.
depression. Not
Hmm.
saying anybody should just hop off their meds and go run or hop off their meds and just or stop seeing their therapist, but it really can be an extra therapeutic tool. And
Yeah.
so that was something that was helpful for me. And then came the food piece and the gut health piece. And so it was just little by little. And I think that's what I really would love for people to understand is it doesn't have to be oh, just change all of your life all at once. But just by establishing tiny little changes in your habits here and there, it really goes a long way. But the key is what is something that you're going to stick to consistently?
Right.
Because I loved trying lots of different things. I loved trying lots of different diet plans. I loved getting on the next, whatever the next thing is. But for me, I needed slow, tiny changes over time, and that made a big difference. And
Yeah.
I would say that really, I mean, that was a period of probably 5 to 10 years where I just continued to make different health changes. And then one day I was like, I feel pretty good, and asked my psychiatrist, should I try weaning off of my antidepressant because I haven't had any issues in a while? I feel good. And so that was another layer that
Stepping stone.
I used
Hmm.
a whole support team for. But it really was little by little over time.
So like 10 years, right? Like
It was a good
that's the
10 years
reality
from
of change. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
I mean, from about 22 to 32 is that whole
hmm.
period was a time of growth and healing and processing.
Were you studying there, like doing courses and things throughout that journey, or were you just self-learning?
No. It was self-learning and it was just I love now I do love learning. That probably is a medication for me. Like you said the TikTok scrolling. I mean, there's something about you get a dopamine hit with novelty, right? So
Right.
learning new information. I mean, give me a research article that's new and I mean, I I love that kind of thing. It's fun for me. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was over yeah, on my own.
See, I think that's like for me too, and it's there's so many fads and diets, and this is what you should do, and things
Mhm.
change from week to week, and so people would just get confused. What do I do? I don't know.
Mhm.
And I guess fall back into just their common knowledge and what they know.
Mhm.
Whereas it sounds like you just kept pushing those boundaries and going, well, hang on, let me try this, let me do that, and then understanding what felt better for you and
Right.
continuing
And
to
knowing that
pursue
I
that.
have
And I don't know if most people have
yes.
that level of resilience and persistence to be able to go through the 10 years that you've done.
That's that is true. And it wasn't even something I would say that was intentional all the time. It was just like, huh, I feel really good when I'm working out this number of days a week, or I feel really good when I'm not, eating pizza. I mean, that was a big, I joke, pizza is my gateway drug. I very rarely have pizza because if I have that, I notice that all I want for a period of time is food like pizza. And the carbs and
So
the
delicious.
anything that's, oh my gosh, right? Anything that's super carby and fatty like that, like it's almost like a drug-like effect for me. And so
Yeah.
I just, but it took, and this is what I want people to hear too, is like, and a big part of my book is body partnership and finding and understanding that your body won't heal until it feels safe to heal, until it
Yeah.
finds safety. And so that means tuning in and going, okay, what works for me? I mean, I love pizza. I feel good right when I'm eating pizza. It's afterwards. That's where things shift. I love staying up late at night, especially if I'm reading a good book or researching something, or, but how do I feel the next day? There's a lot of things that I would do in the moment out of impulsivity that could be driven by some undiagnosed ADHD there and a need for dopamine. But I realized that it was the doing whatever it was that I wanted to do in the moment. I really needed to ask myself, like, how am I going to feel tomorrow if I do this thing in the moment? And
Yeah.
that takes mindfulness. It takes a long process. And so in my book, I do kind of walk through different ways to tune in with your body, create some mind body supportive tools, whether it's through nutrition or whether it's just through breath work and learning to tune in with your breath or movement or different exercise practices that you can include. It's lots of different tools.
Yeah, and the mindfulness, a big piece there, having that level of awareness to allow you to reflect and explore on what feels right and what doesn't. But you talked about, eating pizza or drinking or scrolling TikTok, these things that sort of feel good in the moment, but then later they don't feel good. And we know that. Common knowledge
Yeah.
isn't always common practice. So we know that, but we keep doing it. I
hmm
mean, I'm assuming you
hmm
have it, and I still have things that I do, and I go, why do I do
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Like it doesn't make sense why I do it. So to break those formations is very hard. How do you advise someone on, stepping through those challenges? Is it again just baby steps, finding out one thing they can start doing and then just building it?
Yeah, I think it really does start with addressing your stress response and tuning into that. And a lot of my work that I do, even as a coach, is about regulating your nervous system. So our nervous system is that innate stress response, that instantaneous switch from fight or flight to rest and digest. Like ideally, we would want to be mostly in a parasympathetic state of rest and digest. But most of us in our modern world, we live in fight or flight. We love fight or flight. We get addicted to fight or flight, but it's stressful to the body. And so
Mhm.
finding ways to create some regulation, whether that is learning to be bored again. We don't know how to be bored. I mean, I used to be bored. Now I have a device in front of me all the time. I don't need to be bored. I can Google
Mm.
whatever I want to because I love that information high, right? So figure out ways to just be still and breathe and get quiet, really starting with tuning into the nervous system and developing those safety regulation tools can help to minimize. I think so many people are reacting out of that stress response or reacting out of that need for the next thing because of the fight or flight state that they're in. And then we're like, wait, why did I do that thing? I didn't want to do that thing. That wasn't the plan. But when we're so stressed out, our amygdala is running the show. That's the emotional reaction portion of our brain. And then
Right.
that takes our prefrontal cortex offline. And that's the part of the brain that is making good decisions, right? But if we are so stuck in stress mode and don't know how to get out of it, we're all stressed, right? And everybody knows, okay, I need to manage my stress. And so I don't even encourage people to manage stress, but just to address stress. So
Right.
if we don't know how to get out of it, we're never going to be able to interrupt that fight or flight dynamic that we have going on.
Right. So a common thing there is stress. Is that sort of the the cause for what we're experiencing, our ailments, our pain, our
I would believe that, I mean, my belief is that stress is a big driver of everything, and that can be physiological stress. I put stress in two categories: physiological stress that's occurring inside of our body with some imbalances that we might have, whether it's the gut or whether it's blood sugar,
all
metabolic, those
right.
kinds of
Yep.
things, or emotional stress. And that can be from being constantly triggered because you didn't deal with a trauma that you had when you were 15 or whatever it was. That, and then they work both ways. Like I have a whole chapter in my book about how your self-talk impacts your health. Those thoughts that you think about yourself constantly throughout the day, those replays that are going on in your head, they're sending chemical messages to your whole body. And that can increase inflammation itself. That can increase gut disruption, gut dysbiosis, which is a fancy word for imbalances. And when we can interrupt that process, when we can take notice of those thoughts and go, whoa, I'm being really mean to myself. It goes back to mindfulness. Why am I being so mean to myself? I don't know why. So I'm just gonna notice that. Not judge myself for it, but I'm gonna notice it. And then maybe that can kind of interrupt that stress response and leave room for new habits, new
Yeah,
tools.
right. When I hear stress, I just think, oh, stress because there's so much to do, you know.
Yeah.
But it's a lot deeper than that. You know, we don't think
Yeah.
about the stress in the physiology and the gut, or
Hmm.
based on what we
Hmm.
eat,
Oh
etc. The
yeah.
things you just mentioned. In your book, you've got four key areas of focus. Is that
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, it goes with the acronym again, former teacher here, the acronym LIVE. And so L is that learn to address stress piece, where I do talk about the types of stress. And I do one thing to remember about stress, it's supposed to be helpful. It's supposed to help make us more resilient. That's why we work out. That's why we exercise. It creates stress on the body. It's just the stress over time is problematic. So that's the first part is L,
Right.
learn to address stress. The second part is identify root issues. And so with root issues, in the functional medicine world, we think a lot about like the physiological root issues, but in my book, I mostly talk about the trauma factor. And do we even know how to identify emotions and feelings and how those are showing up in our body? One root issue I see a lot is the need to look for a magic fix. We all want a magic fix.
Hmm.
So we keep turning to the next thing to think it's going to be the thing that fixes us instead of tuning into the needs of our body. So I talk about that. I talk about habits, how to think of our bad habits as old friends as opposed to bad habits, because that's a negative connotation for our body. The V stands for add variety to your diet. So that's where I talk about having a healthy relationship with food, restoring an optimal eating environment so that we can, I always say, a body in stress won't digest. It's my favorite thing to tell people. When we are stressed out, we're not digesting our food well because there's no sense to stop for a snack if you're running from a tiger all the time. Physiologically speaking, your body can't do it. And if your
Right.
body thinks you're
It's
running from a
interesting.
tiger because you have so much stress, it's not going to digest food. So that's a big part of it. And then adding in nutrients that are helpful. And the last piece is the E, exercise your body and brain. So exercise is not just physical exercise, which I'm a big proponent of, but also just creating healthy sleep patterns and times for rest, times to slow down, and then healthy emotional regulation, which is very difficult, especially if you've been diagnosed with anything. It's really hard to know, okay, how can I tune in the emotion that I'm experiencing? Is this a symptom of my illness? Is this a real true emotion? Am I believing things that aren't true? Like, how do we learn to do that? I think for a lot of people, that's a big
Mm.
hurdle to overcome.
Yeah. I like it. And in your book, you share a lot of tools practical tools that people can use to help them with these matters. Let's unpack some of those a little bit. So, learning to
Yeah.
address stress, that's your first pillar. I don't
Hmm.
know if you call it a pillar.
Yeah, yeah. I don't even call
Um,
it a step. Yeah, it's a tool. Yeah.
but I mean, I guess, how do we, like, if we know we're not feeling right and even if we don't have a label necessarily, how do we identify that? I mean, is it a matter of just sitting down, okay, what's stressing me or what in my life would be creating stress that I could potentially work on?
Yeah, and it's determining what kind of, do I have some physiological stressors that are going on that are
Mhm.
burdening me? Is it emotional? And I talk about the two types of stress that are draining us. That's the very first chapter, and going into what those are, what you could be experiencing if you are struggling from that, like what are your symptoms, that kind of thing.
Right. Okay. So identifying that and the root causes you talked about as well, the root issues of those stresses.
Yeah, yeah, and the root issues, it has to do with like what is driving the constant for so many people. It's this, I'm like, I know that I'm struggling, but I don't know how to feel better. Like I don't know how to take those steps. And those root issues and for so many people, trauma is a big one. We all have experienced adversity. That doesn't mean that everybody has had a trauma response for it from it. That's very individual to if the person was able to be tended to after the traumatic event, if they were given tools to support themselves after they experience that adverse event, or for some people, it could be ongoing, what we call complex trauma, which is like not a big T, like big scary event that happened constantly, but like just like a
Yeah.
minor, like bullying over time or really negative parenting over time. What that does is it creates unsafety in the nervous system, and the body kind of then goes into that fight or flight dynamic, not even knowing that you're doing it.
Mm.
And that is something that can be, and what I say in my trauma chapters, it's something that we need to grieve. Sometimes we need to grieve the stories that we didn't get to live because of what we had to go through with trauma. And we need to grieve for those parts that didn't get tended to, and just acknowledging that and knowing, like, I didn't feel safe to recover from that incident, didn't have that. And now I know that. And now that I am who I am, and now that I'm an adult, I know that I can look back with compassion and kindness and find ways to move through that. And then I talk about somatic tools to help support that response.
Okay. Where would someone, like, what would be a good, useful starting point for someone listening to this conversation to help them self-diagnose and go through, obviously getting your book and having a read of that would be a good start, but
Yeah, yeah, I would say, I mean, I think my book is a good start. It's there's a lot of information in there, but it is broken down. I had an amazing editor that really helped me to break it down in ways that I think is pretty easy to understand. There is an
yeah,
Audible version for a lot of people. They
perfect.
that seems to be a little bit easier to absorb in the Audible version than the written version. But I think that that would be a really great starting place. I'm on Instagram as well. I share a lot of things there, and often offering freebies. So like different, a food is mood guide. I have that out. I've got
Right.
lots of different other resources and tools. I put a lot of information out there for free just because I know what I was searching for at one point, was just how can I get support and feel like I'm not alone? And I think for many people, they just want to know that they're not the only ones that feel this way, and
Mm.
that there is hope.
Would you subscribe any mindfulness meditation practice to your patients or to people listening to get them
Yeah.
started to build that self-awareness? Because I think there is a lot of busyness and stress in society today. And for me, it's like I don't think people feel safe to actually do something different. Like to say, oh, that's very
Yeah.
nice, spending half an hour in silence or reading a book at night or going, I don't have the time for that.
Hmm.
And so probably feel very guilty and about even giving themselves that
Yeah.
opportunity.
And that
Um,
makes it worse. Yeah.
well, yeah, yeah, we need
Yeah.
to create the space for those things that matter. But there
Mhm.
more and more there's seems to be no space. Yet ultimately, there's plenty of space. We just need to become aware of that.
Yeah, I think maybe like the smallest tool I would start with, and it's so funny, and I do this with my clients a lot, that a lot of times I start with just this mindfulness meditation piece. It's the cheapest thing we can do. It is totally free, but so many people would rather have an eating, diet protocol and supplement list and give me things to do because we are doers. We're used to doing. Instead, I would say if you have 3 minutes in the morning, your first 3 minutes before you pick up your phone. In fact, I would say don't pick up your phone until you've taken 3 minutes to breathe, sit in silence. Maybe, maybe you're still laying in bed and you're inhaling through your nose, holding it, exhaling through your mouth. And that just helps to kind of get you oriented to where you are in your day. The inhales through the nose can really help to activate that prefrontal cortex, which is really helpful. But just take those first 3 minutes, read something that is meaningful to you, and focus on that. Pray, have some gratitude. I mean, gratitude
Mm,
decreases cortisol. It's anti-inflammatory. And so just spending 3 minutes in gratitude and going, okay, what are 5 things that I'm grateful for right now? And just listing those off and taking that time. And it's like starting your day in that regulated state can really shift the total trajectory of your day. I mean, and try different things. Like start one day looking at your phone and then start the next day breathing in silence for truly just 3 minutes and see what happens. See how different you feel from, and I
mm.
promise you will notice a difference. The day that you start, I mean, I notice a difference. The days that I start with my phone, which is, I still struggle with this, okay? This is real life. But the days that I start with my phone, I am first of all, I'm on my phone a lot more throughout the rest of the day. I'm more dysregulated. I'm more likely to snap at my kids. I have my kids now are 21, 12, 9, and my 21-year-old's in grad school for psychology. She's still living at home. So that's a really strange dynamic that I'm living with right now is this like preteen plus adult child. And it's a little crazy making sometimes. And I can feel very dysregulated by the overstimulation of all of that. But if I start my day regulated and in peace, whether it's I'm inhaling peace and I'm exhaling my need for control, right?
Yeah.
Whatever that is makes a huge difference in the rest of my day.
Do you do meditation or anything like that? And
Oh
you,
yeah, I love doing a good any kind of a breath in and breath out with specific words, phrases,
yeah,
scripture verses that I cling to, things like that. It makes a really big difference for me. And I think
absolutely.
that it's so helpful for all of us. And it's a tool that we have in our bodies to help regulate ourselves that we just don't
Yeah,
use.
yeah. Those two tools are, like you said, they're all available. They're free. If you can start your morning off like that in some level of gratitude, some level of inspiration through scripture or whatever it might be, some
Mhm.
form of movement and exercise, very powerful ways to start the day and regulate yourself so you can be in a greater level of flow and not let those stresses that we will experience affect you as
Mhm.
much. And so just one tool from your book that, or one chapter maybe from your book that you'd say is your favorite, and what would you like to
Ooh.
share from that?
Gosh, I really do think my very favorite chapter is how your self-talk how your self-talk impacts your health, and that's chapter 4.
Right.
That's a huge one for me. That one, I mean, it's difficult to receive care from other people if you're constantly beating yourself up. It's difficult to see you the way that you really are. I talk about how negative emotions trigger the immune system in different ways, and fear can trigger inflammation.
Mm.
And let's see, where I talk about the gut-brain axis and the changes there. That was the one that was the most fun for me from a research perspective, really digging into, like, we know that like the gut and the brain are communicating with each other. We know we get anxious, we can feel it in our gut, we get butterflies in our belly, but we don't always think about when we are anxious, what is that doing intracellularly to the rest of our body? And
Yeah.
uh, so, I mean,
That's
it's
interesting, isn't it?
there's
I've
a
had a
lot
few
there.
guests on the show that we've delved into that topic, the gut-brain
Mhm.
connection. Fascinating.
It's so
Um,
fun.
and really goes to show you, what you're putting into your gut, how important that is.
It does. And the
Amazing.
other thing that's interesting is our gut is talking to our brain, is sending signals. Eight of the, I would say 80% of the time, the gut is talking to the brain more than the brain is talking to the gut. Those nerve fibers are going up as opposed to down. So that does matter too. What's happening in our gut is
Yeah,
majorly
wow.
affecting the brain. So yeah, I love that. I mean, I just finished writing my second book, which is going to be
Oh,
more
wow.
a therapeutic look at nutrition. It's very much more of a nutrition deep dive. So I talk a lot more about
Good
the
on you.
gut brain in there. Yeah.
Well, looking forward to that. We'll get you back on the show when that's out, and
Yeah.
we can discuss that topic in more depth. The negative self-talk, you talked about that briefly just then as well. Um, for me, it was what we consume generally as well. Yes, there's still a lot of negative self-talk there, but I realized that if I shut off certain things, that helps
Mhm.
improve that level of focus. Combined with what you talked about, having gratitude and having that mindfulness, level of mindfulness practice in your day as well. Turning off the news, for example. Are there any things in negative self-talk and tools that you'd say, this is a great little hack or tip that we can give someone?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to like what you just said, the inputs. What are you consuming? What are you believing about yourself?
Yeah.
What are you, or what are you not even meaning to believe about yourself? And I think also welcoming the negative self-talk as a way to get curious. Like this maybe has been protective for me. Like for me, I would say I have a really strong bully in my head because I'm kind of time blind. I don't always show up on time to places when I need to show up on time. So I have a bully in my brain who is telling me, oh, don't be late because you know what they're going to think about you if you're late, or don't, that has been motivating for me. So I think sometimes we need to tune into that negative self-talk as a way to go, okay, why has this been protective for me? The
Mm.
chapter that I have
Right.
right before, I believe it's right before the negative self-talk, is about overthinking and how overthinking is protective. A lot of these things that are going on in our brains are typically protective on some level. And so my question with the negative self-talk, if you're in a pattern or you've been in a pattern of negative self-talk, I would want to know, how has that helped you? How has that served you and been protective? And can you let that go? Can
Mm.
you ask that bully to step aside and leave? Because you probably developed that bully at a very young age when you felt like you needed that support. Maybe that bully in your head is in the voice of your mom or dad or a grandparent or a caregiver. But can you tell them to step aside And you're an adult now, and you don't need to have that bully in your head all the time
Mm,
anymore. And so it's more about developing curiosity and compassion for it and realizing that I mean, my bipolar symptoms were supposed to be protective. I truly believe my body was trying to protect me. That depression sent me so low that I think the hypomania mania was my nervous system going, "Oh no, we've been in shutdown for too long. We better flip it to the other side."
yeah.
And so while it never felt comfortable, it didn't feel protective, I believe it was. And I think that's true for a lot of the shifts that we experience in our body that we get mad about. They're
Mm,
protective. And our
yeah.
body's trying to find balance if
Yeah.
we can just step aside and get curious about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Very interesting stuff. The whole awareness piece around all these topics really fascinates me, and being able to create that space so you can have that awareness about what am I thinking and what are these thoughts doing for me, how I'm feeling and what's happening there. If you don't have that space and that awareness, then it'll never change. So I think that's a fundamental foundation for all of your work. Thank you for coming on. Looking forward to your next book as well. Best place to reach you, erinkerry.com. Is that correct?
ErinBCarey.com. Yes.
Aaron
I
B.
couldn't
Kerry, I
get Erin
apologize.
Carey, but I have Erin B. Carey.
Oh, that's good.
ErinBCarey.com. And then I'm on Instagram. Sparking Wholeness is my Instagram because that's the name of my podcast is Sparking Wholeness. So that's
Perfect.
where that comes from. Yeah.
Love it. Love it. Well, I'll stick all the links in the show notes, guys, for listening out there. Reach out to Erin. Thank you for coming on the show. Erin, thank you so much for coming on and sharing. Really appreciate you being here today.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a fun talk. Thanks for having me on.
Cheers, everyone. Until next time, peace, passion, and purpose. See you soon. There you have it, everyone. My interview with Erin Kerry. Let me know what you think. I would love to hear what your key takeaways were from this interview. Again, connect with me on socials, Instagram, Facebook. You can also jump on the website, thehiddenwhy.com, and leave your comments there as well. We are under the process now of revamping our website. Very exciting year ahead for the Hidden Why podcast. I'm all about helping people live more fully, have more meaning, and find more joy. And I've developed a blueprint for that called the Ultimate Life Map. And that's going to be available on the new website as well. So I can't wait to announce the launch of our new website. So watch this space, that'll come out soon. Again, for the show notes for Erin, they are all there at thehiddenwhy.com, episode 1145. The links to Erin as well, if you'd like to connect or pick up a copy of a book, are within the show notes there as well. So support the show by using the links within. And guys, if there's anything we can help you with to live more fully, have more meaning, and find more joy, please make sure you connect. I'd love to start the conversation with you. Have a great day.